Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Nathan Seaward. Nathan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be here.
Well, Nathan, I want you to get us started and kind of give us a little bit of a background about you and yourself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So I'm from New Zealand, hence having a crazy accent, and I actually started my life as an airline pilot. So I've been flying airplanes since I was 12 years old, went on and made a career out of that. But I think like many people, I always had that entrepreneurial streak inside me, or that part of me that knew I was meant for something bigger, or knew that I was here for a reason or to help people in some way. And throughout my flying career, that never went away. As much as I loved flying airplanes, traveling around the world and doing that, there was always that little bug, biting away at me. And I had a number of businesses on the side that I tried to get into that never really fulfilled it. And about 5 years ago, I went through quite a bad breakup. And during that breakup, I hired a coach to help me navigate through that. And through that process, not only did he help me with the relationship, but also helped me really get to know myself, understand what my highest purpose was, helped me sort of get clear on my mission, and that flying was ultimately not going to satisfy me. I loved that experience so much. I worked with that coach for 2 years that I decided that this type of work, personal development, was the intersection of everything I love. Helping people, personal development, finding your mission. And it was a business that really aligned with what I wanted out of a lifestyle, financially, the ability to do it from anywhere. So I started a coaching business about 4 years ago and made a tough decision to leave my flying career completely at the age of 34. And dive straight into that business. And the business have evolved in a number of different ways to the point now we try and mainly support entrepreneurs that are looking to change the world in different ways. And we have a number of products to help them do that.
Well, that's exciting. And what I want you to do is get us started with what I like to call the first tough decision, which is a sore thumb tough decision, where you had a decision that you had to make. You made that decision, and it turned out not that good of an outcome, but you learned a lot of lessons through that.
Early on in my entrepreneurial career, I think I made a mistake that a lot of new entrepreneurs make, where there was a whole bunch of parts of the business I just didn't enjoy. And one of those things was social media. I just found social media confusing. I found it time consuming. I didn't particularly enjoy it. But, like everyone in business a few years ago, we kind of knew that social media was a thing and that you had to know about it. So I made the decision to take on a social media management company that would run everything for me and just take care of social media. And I spent a ton of money on it. There were definitely some points that it helped, but mostly it just gave me more of a headache. I still had to come up with, now, instead of just hating social media and not doing anything about it, now this company made me create like 16 posts a month, and I was like working twice as hard on social media than I ever had. Didn't enjoy it, didn't enjoy the process, and ultimately just resented the whole thing and really spent a ton of money and wasn't doing the work and not getting the results. And I think the lesson from that for me was in business, delegation is a huge part of growing, especially if you're growing to 7 figures plus. And the way to not do it is just to offload everything that you hate. So, which is what I did. So now the growth for me was going, okay, to truly thrive as an entrepreneur, I need to understand and at least, maybe not love, but at least learn to enjoy all aspects of my business to a point where I understand them. And at that point, I can be a really powerful delegator.
What do you think it was from that campaign that, allowed you to not have the success that you were looking for?
Yeah, again, I think it was just the resistance to it. So, the resistance in a bigger sense was to marketing, or just the resistance to really understanding what marketing truly was. And so as I've slowed down and taken the time to actually understand what marketing is, which the definition that I like is you're really trying to connect what you have to offer with people that need that service. So marketing for me was always like, okay, I don't want to be a door-to-door salesman that's trying to get people to buy vacuum cleaners. And so I kind of actively avoided it. I didn't understand it. I didn't like the analysis of it. And so it was this thing which is, I don't understand it, so I'm going to avoid it, as opposed to going, oh, I don't understand it. Let me learn about it to a point where I can at least delegate it effectively.
And so what do you think is probably the number one thing you learned going through that decision?
The number one thing I learned was there's no shortcuts in business. There's no shortcuts in business. And it doesn't matter what it is. You know, the thing is, when you're an employee, there's always someone above you to blame. When you're in business, you can only look at yourself. And I learned that the hard way. So instead of, trying to offload responsibility or, go into a victim type mindset, it was going, okay, this didn't work. I need to understand it. I need to dive deeper in here. And I use that in all parts of my business now. I don't look at not understanding something as a weakness. I go, okay, I don't understand it. That means I just have to learn. I have to be willing to embarrass myself, be a beginner, be a learner in order to understand these different parts of the business.
So let's shift here a little bit and talk about another tough decision that you've had to make that had a really good and positive outcome.
Yeah, so I mentioned it in the intro there. The decision to leave my flying career was huge, and there will be a lot of people that either resonate with this from the side that they're in a job that they know is not their highest calling and are stuck in the fear of what it would mean to do something about that, or the people that are entrepreneurs that have made that tough decision and now are enjoying the benefits of getting through that. So that was a really tough one for me. Flying was my absolute passion. I dreamed of being a pilot since I was a little boy. And then here I was at the top of my career. I was flying big jets all around the world, internationally, making the most money I've ever made in my life, faced with the choice to then give all that up with some ambiguous hope of starting a business and following a dream and maybe making a difference. So I agonized over that decision for years and years and years, which is not to say that that was the wrong thing to do, but it definitely was a decision I didn't take lightly.
So basically what you're saying is you were in this kind of job that you really had dreamed of since childhood, and you were torn with staying with that or, kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing something different.
Absolutely. And the choice at the end of the day was heart over mind. So, if I really went deep into my truth, which is something that I teach a lot to my clients, is the first step is really acknowledging your own truth. And the hardest thing to acknowledge was this dream job that I dreamed of all my life was not fulfilling me in the ways that I wanted it to. And I desperately wanted it to. I think I'd lied to myself long enough, and I tried to justify and go, well, it pays really well, and the airline is great, and I get to travel, and I kept justifying all these different ways. But if I really went into my truth, I had to acknowledge that it didn't matter how good the job was, I was not being fulfilled by it. So that was the hardest part, was learning to acknowledge that truth and be authentic to myself. And then the second part of it was I didn't actually know what I was trying to do. I didn't know where I was trying to go. I just knew that was my truth.
So once you had acknowledged it, what would you do to take those next steps to start to move towards that point of being able to make that change?
So probably the thing that helped me the most is I surrounded myself with people that had already done it. So I joined a high-end mastermind that was around 35 of the top coaches in the world. They met 4 times a year all around the world. And it was like a $20,000 investment, which even for me at the time was a lot of money. And that had the singular biggest impact on me for a couple of different reasons. One, I could see people that were successful and what I wanted to do. So, one of the things when I left flying, I didn't want to leave that job and then just completely drop down to having no money. I wanted to make the same amount of money, and I wanted that salary to keep going up, or I wanted that income to keep going up. So I had to find, are there people in the coaching business that are doing what I want to do, and found that perfect mastermind where there were people earning 6 and 7 figures in personal development businesses. So it gave me, first of all, the confidence. When I didn't have confidence in myself, I could have confidence in other people who had been on the journey that I'd been on and done it. Second of all, it normalized a lot of, the things that I was scared of, which, let me explain that. So when I was new in business, if you sell something for the first time in business and someone buys it for $50, it is an incredible feeling, if you've only ever earned a salary. Now you've come up with a thing, you've created a product, and you've given it to someone and they've paid $50 for it. That's an amazing feeling. And so for me, I knew I'd been working as a coach part-time for a couple of years. I knew I could earn some money from it. And then all of a sudden, once I joined this mastermind, I was in a conversation where people were earning $20, $30, $50, $100,000 per client. And they were talking about that as if it was nothing. And so I was like, wow, it really normalized that. And I really got dragged up to that being my normal, which, man, I can't understate the transformative effect of that.
So once you started to surround yourself with these other people that were doing things that you were wanting to do right then, that was kind of really the moment that allowed you to be able to own what you were really wanting to do. Did you, before you actually make the transition, have like a contingency fund in place for like 3 months, 6 months, or a year? Or what did you do to kind of, help the risk component of it to make sure that you could actually get through it when you were getting started?
Yeah, I think it's really important. There's a positive and negative to that. So I probably had 60,000 in the bank at that point, which was kind of my runway. And it, probably could have been more. It probably should have been more, but I came to the realization that it can always be more. At some point, close enough is good enough and you have to jump. So I looked at that and I went, right, I minimize my expenses. I looked at what my minimum viable income every month was in order to pay for my expenses, calculated that, and then kind of figured what I had to do to start making the money, figured out the path of things that I had to do to make the money. So I definitely looked at that and made sure that I was set up, as best I can. But the other side of that is, at some point when you're in business, that you can't look at things like having a safety net or a runway, I believe. Anyway, this is my assertion, because it's kind of having a foot in each camp. It's kind of trying to stay safe whilst also being in business, which by nature is about taking risks, about putting yourself out there, about trying a bunch of new things. So at some point, you have to kind of let go of this idea of having this safety net or this plan B, or if it doesn't work out, at least I've got this, and go all in.
Can you share with us now some strategies that you like to use when you're facing a tough decision?
Sure. The first one is I mentioned it a couple of times. I always connect with my truth. So, I'm a nice guy. So oftentimes tough decisions are around people, hurting people, or giving feedback, or letting people go, or, breakups or anything like that. So the first thing I connect into is my truth and go, well, what is the truth of the situation here? And I think that's a really hard thing to do. A lot of times I've dismissed that, or I felt bad, or who am I to be doing that? But what I've learned more and more is that even if it feels bad, or even if it feels wrong, or even if it feels self-indulgent, my truth is my truth. My intuition is my intuition. So I have to start there and know what is my truth and what do I truly want. And then the second part is being willing to be uncomfortable and make a mess in order to make that decision. Whatever the decision might be, being willing to go in there and have it go wrong, make a mess, and trust yourself that you'll be able to navigate through it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be going over a series of quick questions and answers that we call the trifecta. Then we'll be right back.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com.
And we're back with Nathan Seaward. And Nathan, I want you to get us started on this series of quick questions and answers that we call the trifecta. And talk to us about your favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier every day.
You'll probably relate to this, Dan. I have my own podcast, so my whole life is contained in my laptop. I've got my HD camera. I've got my ATR mic here. I've got my Bose headphones, and I stream my podcast live onto Facebook, so I use an app called Be Live. So all of this technology I have in front of me right now that I can throw in my bag wherever I travel. I travel a lot, and I have this whole mobile podcasting setup that is incredible, that I can just throw in my bag. I can't live without it.
And what's your favorite quote that you've heard that has helped you as an entrepreneur?
Good question. The Teddy Roosevelt quote is my favorite quote of all time, and it's never far from my mind. That I won't read the whole thing; it's long, but it's basically it's not the critic who counts, but it's the man who's in the arena. And so, when you're an entrepreneur, you're throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, and you're failing a lot. And there's a lot of criticism from people that are doing a lot less from you. And so, constantly reminding myself that I'm the man in the arena, and that it's not the critic who counts.
And what's a favorite book that has helped you make better decisions as an entrepreneur?
The Big Leap is a phenomenal book. It's The Big Leap by Dr. Gay Hendricks. It's not a well-known book, but it's a game changer, and it forms the basis for all of my work with my clients. And, it's a lot about what I talked about. How do you understand your zone of genius? What's really important to you? What are the things that come up that limit you in your life and in your decision-making? And man, there's no book that I've read more and no book that's helped me more on this journey.
So what's the next thing for you right now on your vision or dream board, Nathan?
Continue to grow a business that helps entrepreneurs create game-changing ideas. So understanding the entrepreneur more, understanding the challenges of the entrepreneur, building more and more products, whether it's coaching products or whether it's straight information products. My dream is to have a whole suite of products that empowers entrepreneurs so that we can have people creating game-changing ideas every day, getting out of doing the mundane job that I don't like and getting into a business that's both an expression of them and something that's actually going to help people on the planet in new ways.
Well, how can the listeners reach out to you if they want to follow you more or get some more information about what you're doing right now?
Sure. Just go to my website, nathanseaward.com. I'll create a link for you, Dan. That'll be nathanseaward.com/Dan, and you'll be able to get a free training on all the stuff we've talked about, how to trust your intuition, how to get really honest with yourself, how to figure out truly what you want, and then how to overcome some of the fear and have the courage to put some of those ideas into action. So just go and check out nathanseaward.com/Dan, and you can see all that stuff there.
And we'll also make sure that link is in the show notes for this episode. And thank you so much, Nathan, for taking time out of your schedule to be with us here today. Looking forward to continuing to follow you and also having you on a future episode as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur.
Appreciate it, Dan. Thanks. Nice to speak with you.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.